Hello, hello. I'm back on. Let's see something real quick. So sorry, my phone keeps blasting. All right. Chapter 9, The Gathering in the Woods. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what happened on the page before. So hard to remember because I'm reading two books. Connor. Oh, they're back. Okay, so they went back to the land of stories, but this doesn't look good, right? Ooh, what does that remind you of? To me, it reminds me of Little Red Riding Hood, right? That's the red hood. I don't know. That's the big bad wolf. Do you think the big bad wolf tribe is going to get back to them? Let's see. Alex and Connor slowly crawled up out of the pond. They were soaked, muddy, and covered in lily pads. They shivered in the cold night air and held themselves tightly as they looked at the land around them. The ugly duckling pond was in the middle of a forest in the northern kingdom. The twins had passed it on their previous trip into the land of stories, but neither had expected to become so acquainted with it on their next visit. I cannot believe we just sank Grandma's house, Connor said through chattering teeth. It takes a lot of talent to submerge something that isn't even close to water. Bits and pieces of their grandmother's cottage were still floating in the pond. Her rocking chair bobbed up and down in the water. Alex was so amazed. She didn't even care how dirty or cold she was. I sure hope Grandma has really good house insurance. Alex, are you even listening to me? Connor asked. She turned to face him. The excitement was practically glowing in her eyes. She didn't care how they had gotten there. They were finally there, and that's all that mattered. We're here. We're actually here, Alex said, even a trembling jaw. Oh, she probably says it more like this. We're here. We're actually here, Alex said. Even a trembling jaw couldn't take the smile off her face. Despite the circumstances, it was the first time Alex had been happy in months. Congratulations, you managed to successfully and dangerously transport us into the fairy tale world again. Connor said with a smile of his own. I've got to say, I prefer Grandma's methods of transportation to yours. Let me quickly say hi to. Oh, I don't know why I can't chat, but hi, Emerson. I don't know why I can't type in the chat right now. That's odd. Okay, well, anyways, I'm gonna keep reading. Alex's smile disappeared as the reality of it set in. She surveyed the forest around the pond more closely. Something's wrong, she said. Of course something is wrong, Connor said. Grandma's cottage is at the bottom of a pond. How are we going to explain that one to her? No, that's not what I mean. Alex said. Listen. Do you hear that? Connor raised his eyebrows and looked from side to side. The pond and the forest around it were dead silent. I don't hear anything, Connor said. Exactly, Alex said. We're standing at the edge of a pond and there are no sounds at all. No frogs or crickets or anything. Connor nodded, understanding what she meant. It was so eerie, he was surprised he hadn't noticed it before. It's like everything is on mute, he said. Or hiding. Can you see my screen? Yes, you can. Okay, just making sure you can see my screen. Suddenly, on the other side of the pond, a dark figure emerged from the trees. It startled the twins at first until they saw it was small, barely the size of a dog. It was running very fast on four skinny legs and had something white trailing behind it. What do you think it is? Emerson, what do you think it is? What do you think's following them? It's small, barely the size of a dog, so it's smaller than the size of a dog. What do you think? Am I taking a wild guess? Wait, did you read ahead? Did you read ahead? If you read ahead, I'm not reading your answer. Ah, Emerson. Remember, he won the book set for my class, so he actually has the books. So he actually read it, and he's actually listening to it live also. Okay, Fine. I even lost my place. Alice and Connor hid behind the closest tree and watched it from afar. The strange creature slowed into a fast and springy walk as it delicately approached the pond. It was wearing a dark cloak. Oh, it was a dark cloak. It lowered its hood with its front paws before taking a drink from the water. The moonlight reflecting off the water illuminated the mysterious visitor, and the twins could make out what it was. It had dark red fur, pointy ears, and a long fluffy tail with a white tip. "It's a fox!" Connor whispered to Alex. The fox jerked his head up from the water with his bright yellow eyes and stared in their direction. He must have had impeccable hearing. The twins stayed still. The fox headed for the trees in the opposite direction from where he had came from. "Where's he going?" Alex whispered to his brother. "Do I look like an expert in cloaked mammals?" Connor said. The fox disappeared into the trees, but besides being the only living thing that they had seen, there was something very intriguing about him. Neither of the twins wanted to let him out of their sight. "We should follow him," Connor said. "Why?" Alex said. Connor shrugged. "Do we have another plan we're supposed to be following?" he said. "Good point," Alex said, and without another moment to waste, the twins began chasing after the small fox, hoping he would lead them to someone or something that would help them find their mother. Alex and Connor ran after the fox for a good while. He wasn't sticking to a path, so it was hard to see him between the trees ahead. He was incredibly fast for his size, too, so it was difficult to keep up with him. They were happy to and warm their bodies through sorry, run and warm their bodies though. Their clothes began to dry the more they went. "It looks like we're going to dwarf forests," Alex whispered as she jogged. "How can you tell?" Connor asked. "The trees are getting thicker and it's getting harder to see the sky," Alex said. "Also, I'm feeling more anxious the farther we run." "That's the biggest clue." Connor gulped. The dwarf forest had never been a good place for the twins. You guys remember what happened in the dwarf forest? There's no rules there, remember? The last time they had been in this part of the land of stories, they had been chased by wolves and kidnapped by goblins. The fox came into view ahead, and the twins came to a belated stop, like cars with bad brakes. They hid behind the biggest tree they could find, and each gestured for the other one to be quiet. Right? The fox was standing on his hind legs next to a stone well in the middle of a clearing. The moon illuminated the clearing like a spotlight. The fox stood very still, keeping a close watch on the trees around him. He was waiting, but for what the twins couldn't tell. At one point, the fox looked directly at the twins' hiding spot, but didn't appear to see them. The twins wondered if they blended in with the rest of the forest because they were so dirty or just because it was so dark. It was unnervingly quiet in the dwarf forest, too. It was surprising since the twins had remembered hearing all kinds of troubling sounds coming from close by and afar the last time they were here. A few twig snaps echoed into the night as someone or something made its way into the clearing. The fox jerked his head in the direction of the snaps and smiled, exposing several tiny, sharp teeth. A sly expression came from his face. The twins couldn't tell if it was because he was pleased or just because he was a fox. Three cloaked figures stepped into the clearing. They were all different shapes and sizes. One was enormous, another was only a little bigger than the twins, and the third was as tiny as a fox. A large raven swooped into the clearing, perching on the well next to the fox. It didn't need a cloak. Its dark feathers were enough to camouflage it in the night. The others surrounded the well, all facing the fox. The fox rubbed his small paws together. "So glad you could make it," the fox said through his toothy grin. The smallest of the cloaked figures lowered its head. He had shiny black eyes, white stripes, and a short snout. It was a badger, and a paranoid one at that. "It isn't safe for us to be out at night like this," the badger said, and nervously looked around. "At least not anymore." "Relax, Badger," the fox said. "If the Enchantress wanted to harm us, we would be dead by now." "Get to the point, Fox," the raven squawked impatiently. "Why did you call us here tonight?" The largest figure lowered its hood. It was a gigantic brown bear. "And make it fast. I've got cubs at home," the bear said with a booming, growly voice. Alex and Connor had never seen so many talking animals in the same place. They hoped their presence would remain unnoticed. I've just returned from the Eastern Kingdom, the fox said. I heard the Enchantress did a number on it, but I wanted to see it with my own two eyes. The whole place is a disaster. It's covered in vines and thorn bushes as far as the eye can see. It's worse than I've ever imagined. It's as if the thornbush pit had taken over the entire kingdom. Oh dear, the badger squealed and began nervously tapping his paws together. Is it going to cross into other kingdoms? I hate thorns, the raven said. That's the thing, the fox explained. The plants grow perfectly along the border. They don't cross into the northern kingdom at all. I even tried provoking a plant with a stick, but it only coiled around the edge and touched eastern kingdom ground. It takes very powerful magic to be that specific. The animals exchanged worried expressions. The remaining hooded member of the group maintained his silence. Alex and Connor wondered what kind of creature was under the cloak. What do you guys think it is? What do you guys think is under there? There's one character that's under a cloak and they can't see his or her face. Who do you think it is? Emerson, do you know who it is? I'm going to continue reading, but go ahead and type it out, okay? I'll read your answer if it's right or wrong. Whatever. I know you read ahead, so I don't know. Why would the plants only stay in one kingdom? The bear asked. I reckon the Enchantress is taking over the world in style, the fox said. She's doing it one kingdom at a time, showing the world that the happily ever after assembly is no match for her. It's only a matter of time before she takes over the door forest too, and we must be prepared. But what would she want with a dwarf forest? The badger asked, shaking his head. It's full of nothing but criminals and outcasts like us. The fox's grin grew bigger. Exactly why I called you all here tonight, he said. I think we should pledge our allegiance to the Enchantress now before she strikes. The animals grunted and growled their protest. You're out of your rabbit praying mind, fox, the bear said. We're already fugitives, the raven said. You want us to get locked away in Pinocchio prison next? The fox raised his paws at them, calming their nerves. Really? Is that who it is? Emerson? Is this because you're guessing it, or is this because you've already read it? I'm not reading his answer yet, because it's very surprising for me too. And I don't want to kill the surprise for you guys. Hear me out before you disregard me entirely, he said. Think about it. The reason we live in these parts is because none of us could fit in a happily ever after assembly regulated society. The Enchantress is going to change all that. The world of fairies and man is over. Oh, I'm sorry. The world of fairies and man is over. If we show loyalty to her now, then when she takes over, and she will take over, she may spare us. The fox is slowly starting to convince the animals. They all remain quiet except the badger. We can't do that, the badger said. It's already bad enough living in exile. Can you imagine what they'd do to us if we sided with her? That's where you're mistaken, Badger, the fox said. You're still in the happily ever after frame of mind. I saw what the Enchantress is capable of. Trust me, all the fairies in the world aren't going to be able to stop her this time. If they could, they would have done so already. The animals looked back and forth to one another. They're all afraid to be the first one to express their interest. How will we show our allegiance? The bear said. You're not agreeing with him, are you? The badger asked the bear. The bear growled restlessly. We're always castaways. What more can they do to us? He said. If the world is changing, why not change with it, especially if there's something in it for us? Do you know because you read ahead, Emerson? The raven bobbed up and down, contemplating. What's your plan, Fox? She asked. I've been asking around. I've got some ideas, the fox said. His mouth had dropped the smile, but his eyes hadn't. What about you? The raven squawked in the direction of the unidentified creature. You've been awfully quiet. He's always quiet, the bear said. I don't even know if he can speak. The hooded creature looked around at its fellow animals and nodded his head. A simple and singular ribbit came from under his hood. Alex and Connor both gasped. Could it be? I think you're right. The badger must have heard the twins' reaction because he grew more timid than ever before. We should get out of here before we get caught. Think it over, the fox said. You all know where to find me. All the animals put their hoods back over their heads and disappeared into the night. The fox took one last look around the forest before following the others. Perhaps the badger's paranoia had gotten to him. The twins knew they wanted to follow the mysterious hooded creature. They made sure the other animals were a safe distance away, then bolted through the forest after their new target. The forest became darker and darker as they went. The twins had been running for a few minutes, jumping over boulders and tree roots. They were cold, tired, and lost. It was almost nostalgic for them, reminding them of their last trip. But there was no sign of the hooded creature. I don't get it, Alex said. He was just here. It's like he disappeared into thin. Ah! Connor screamed. Alex turned to see what had startled her brother. Emerging from the trees directly behind them was the hooded creature. He was much taller and more menacing than he had looked in the clearing. He began slowly walking toward the twins. They clutched each other in fear. We're sorry for following you, Connor said. We thought we might have known you. We didn't mean any harm, Alex said. We'll leave you alone now. The creature kept coming toward them. You better get away from us, Connor said, taking another approach. My sister knows magic. She just sank a house. She'll mess you up. Alex stared at her brother in disbelief. Did he think this was helpful? The creature froze just a few feet away from them and looked the twins up and down, side to side. Connor picked up a big stick on the ground and began swinging it into the hooded creature's direction. I played t-ball in elementary school, he said. I'm warning you. A soft chuckle came from under the creature's cloak. Come now, is that really how you're going to greet an old friend? Said a very familiar and proper voice. Its owner slowly removed its hood, and the twins sighed with relief. Froggy! The twins exclaimed. Yes, Emerson, you're right. It is Froggy. They jumped into a huge hug, violently embracing their old friend. Hello, Connor. Hello, Alex, Froggy said and hugged them back. I wish I could say it's a surprise seeing you two here, but you've always had a knack for being in danger. Froggy was a tall man-sized frog with big, bright eyes and a wide mouth. He always dressed to impress. The twins noticed he was wearing a three-piece suit under his cloak. It's good to see you, Froggy, Connor said. We've missed you so much, Alex said. And I've missed you too, Froggy said as he leaned down to look them both in the eye. You both grown so much. You're practically grown-ups. His expression fell once he remembered where this reunion was taking place. What on earth are you two doing here at this time like this? Does your grandmother know you are where you are? Alex and Connor exchanged guilty glances at each other. Not really, Connor said. Grandma doesn't know exactly where we are, Alex said, not looking him in the eye. I should certainly hope not, Froggy said. The dwarf forests are still too dangerous for you two to be in, especially these days, and especially this late. Alex and Connor gave each other another glance. I recognize that look, Froggy said. What aren't you telling me? Why are you both so filthy? Alex and Connor considered lying to him for a second, but they knew they couldn't. Our grandmother doesn't know we're in this world, Alex confessed. Froggy's wide mouth fell open and he stared blankly at the twins. How did you get here? Alex sank our grandma's house. I wasn't kidding, Connor said. That's why we're here, covered in swamp juice. It was horrifying and strangely awesome at the same time. You sank a house? Froggy asked, dumbfounded. Normally I would question such a possibility, but I don't with you two. It was an accident, Alex said. I activated another one of my grandmother's portals. Your technique your technique needs work, Connor said out of the side of his mouth. Froggy looked around at the forest. They could tell, excuse me, oh my gosh, I'm tired. They could tell knowing they had snuck into the fairy tale world made him uneasy. Children, you shouldn't be here, he said. These are very dangerous times. An evil enchantress is at large. Esmia, Alex said. We all know about her. She kidnapped our mom. What? Froggy said. I'm so sorry. Not as sorry as we are, Connor said. And our grandmother practically imprisoned us, trying to stop us from coming here. Clearly it worked, Froggy said with an eye roll. Has she met you two? Are you even capable of sitting still? Thank you, Connor said, glad of the validation. Wait, Alex said, noticing something for the first time. Froggy, you're a frog again. Oh, yeah, Connor said. What gives? Despite his transformation back into Prince Charlie, the long lost charming prince, Alex and Connor still imagined him as a frog whenever they thought of him. They had to remind themselves it wasn't his natural form. I'm undercover, Froggy said. Your grandmother transformed me back into a frog so I could keep a watch over the animals and criminals living in the dwarf forests during this crisis. We figured we figured they trust me more as an amphibian. Some of them even remember me from when I was living here. Are they really going to join the Enchantress? Alex asked. I doubt it, Froggy said. These are just a bunch of crooks trying to make the current situation work for them. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but still, the Happily Ever After Assembly wants to keep an eye on them, just in case things change. Froggy folded his arms and looked between the twins. I'm sure they'd be much more interested in knowing what you two are up to. Froggy, you can't tell anyone we're here, Connor said. They'll send us back. We can't be stuck at home, not when we know our mom is in danger, Alex said. They both looked up at him with large, pleading eyes. Children, you know I care about you deeply, but Froggy started but was interrupted. We're not children, Connor shouted. Everyone keeps calling us that, and I'm sick of it. We shouldn't have to prove ourselves after everything we've been through already. It's not like we're a couple of irresponsible kids sneaking into a party. We're two young adults trying to save our mother's life. You can tell our grandmother if you have to, Alex said. She can lock us up at home all she wants, but we'll just keep finding ways to get back here until our mom is safe. We have to find her, Froggy, Connor said. We already lost our dad. We can't lose our mom. We're not going to stop until we save her. Froggy hopelessly looked back and forth between them with his big glossy eyes. Oh my gosh, I'm getting tired. They had they had put him between a rock and a hard place. You guys know what that means? They had put him between a rock and a hard place, so he's kind of stuck right now, right? He feels like he's cornered, is what it means. First things first, Froggy said. We need to get out of the dwarf forest before anything else sees you. Let's get somewhere safe and we'll discuss it further. Alex and Connor nodded, but they already knew there wouldn't be anything to discuss. His loyalty to them was much stronger than it was to their grandmother. He was their friend before he was her subject. Froggy placed his cloak over the twins and led them safely through the forest. Alex and Connor were so relieved to have miraculously made contact with an ally so soon, but they knew the worst was yet to come in the uncertain days ahead. And that's the end of the chapter. All right, I'm going to try to wake up earlier tomorrow and do a reading, Emerson. I'm going to try to wake up at 8 and do the streaming around 8:30. I kind of need to read a little bit earlier because I've been very very busy making masks because I've been selling masks right now, and I've just been just so busy. What have you been up to, Emerson? Oh, there's my chat box. Now it works. You're still in here, right, Emerson? I think that's you. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? Have you been swimming, going to the beach, staying home like me? I've been staying home. I've been making millions and millions of masks. Here, I'll show you one. So this is one of the masks I made. And of course, what does it have? Where is it? Where is it? Of course it has to have Hello Kitty on there. I've actually packed up all my masks, so I don't have a lot. But here are a couple. What have you been doing? Here's another one. Isn't this one so cute? Of course. Who do you see there? Hello Kitty. Oh, you've been going to the park. What park have you been going to? Here's another one, but this one doesn't have Hello Kitty. I think this is good for boys because I lined it with blue. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Yeah, so I've been busy making masks. Oh, yeah, at least you get to go see the sun going outdoors. That's good. Getting some vitamin D. Oh, yes, that's really close to the new Vallarta, the big Vallarta, right? Gotta be careful. Are you keeping your mask on? Have you been keeping your mask on, Emerson? Yeah? Okay, good. All right, Emerson, I gotta get going. It's good seeing you. It's good chatting with you. Did you miss me? Just a little bit? I miss everybody. I hope more kids can join. I know that Oscar's listening to our to the reading later, and so is Samantha. But yeah, but hopefully we could have more kids join us on the live chat, so you could chat with your friends. We'll see. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye, Emerson. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.